Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the AmandaFest podcast, where our mission is simple. It is to inspire and empower you to take aligned action towards your dream life, whatever that looks like for you. I am so excited. We have a very special guest here today, home birthed, having never eaten meat in her life, and born and raised as a theater kid. Jade Zaroff is an impact artist, producer, creative entrepreneur, and young change maker. Jade is also the founder of Entertainment for Change, a nonprofit that provides a platform that educates and empowers a community of young impact artists. Today, we are going to dive into all things personal development, embodying play and joy, and intentionality in both career and relationships. Before we dive into this juicy conversation, we're just going to take a quick moment to ground. I know I definitely need it. We are filming this on what is today? It is November 6th. For those who know, you know, lots of energy in the collective. So we're just going to acknowledge that and move through that. So, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, if it's safe to do so, I invite you to close down your eyes. Maybe put a hand on your heart and one on your belly, just something that helps you to feel grounded and connected into the here and now. And I just want you to start noticing your breath. Don't change it, don't do anything about it, just notice it. And now I want you to start to think about an intention, something that you would like to call in, you want to feel more of in your body, you want to be filled up with. So, with a nice deep breath in, I want you to call in this intention, this feeling, this emotion, whatever it is. Breathe it in, hold it at the top. And I want you to exhale, letting go. Letting go of something that no longer serves you, letting go of tension in your body. Feel free to move through it if there's an area that feels tight or tense. We're just going to take a couple of deep breaths like that with the inhale, thinking of an intention, and the exhale, something you want to let go of. Nice deep breath in and out. Last one together. Nice deep breath in and out. Feel free to shake it out, make some noise, move any tension in your jaw, massage your shoulders, whatever it is, whatever's stuck, let it go. And welcome, welcome to your bodies. Welcome to AmandaFest and welcome, Jade. So happy to have you.
I'm so happy to be here virtually and also to just play and be present with you.
I
It's
actually just had Lyle, who we met at Frenchwood Summer Camp as well.
oh my
Jade and I
gosh.
also met at this performing arts summer camp in upstate New York. And then we ended up accidentally going to college together. It's not that random because we went to an arts and communications college. And so there was a lot of Frenchwoods people that were at Emerson, but it was just one of those things where we got to
Right.
college and we were like, hey, I know you. We were friends when we were little kids.
Totally.
Um, but since then, it has been so amazing witnessing your journey. Actually, we had a drop in last year. I remember we had a phone conversation because I was following all the things that you were doing on LinkedIn. And I was like, man,
Yes.
I really need to reconnect with Jade. I saw that you did Jay Shetty's life school or yeah, the
Life
life
coaching.
coaching thing that you were doing all this nonprofit work in entertainment. And I was just like, okay, Jade is someone that is on her shit. You just have always been someone that's like, I know who I am, I know what I bring to the table, and I'm gonna go after it and I'm not gonna hide behind other people, is my impression of you.
That's so nice. That's very thoughtful and kind to say. And similarly, I'm so proud of everything that you're doing. Just bringing this podcast to life is such a feat and something you should be so excited to share with
Yeah.
people.
The coolest
Have a
thing about
conversation.
it truly is that I'm a connector by nature. and I see people, like, I really see when people are just doing amazing things, and it's so fun and cool to not only get to be able to have these conversations, but to have a platform to share these conversations. Because 'cause I'm sure there are so many people that wish that they had friends in their life that were doing amazing, cool things, and now I just get to share mine.
You're like, here are all of the people I think you should
Yeah,
hear
like
stories from. It's such a cool part of podcasting, being able to, when you have a phone call with a friend and you're like, wow, that was one of the most, with no ego, like thought provoking conversations I've ever had. Now we can have that conversation, have it recorded, and then
totally.
have other people share their opinions and their thoughts and their
Totally. I was like,
perspectives.
I would leave conversations with my friends that were doing cool shit. And I would just be like, I'm so lit up. I feel so inspired. I'm ready to take action and I want to do all these things. I'm like, wow, I'm so lucky that I have so many people that make me feel that way. And I was like, how can I pay that forward? So here we are. My first question for you is, what is an impact artist? What does that mean?
Yeah, good question. It's ever evolving. But to make a long story short, I have been following the path of least resistance of my artistic talents and passion. And I think that the term artist is so hard to define, especially as you become an adult. It's like, unless you are booking X, Y, and Z, you sometimes perhaps could struggle with the identity of being an artist. And I think so much of that is reflective upon the capitalistic
Yeah.
society we live in of unless you're making money for X things, it's not enough to be an artist. And so I was unpacking all of these things as I've gotten older and as I've learned my relationship to being an artist. And whenever I feel any which way or am doing anything, I resort to art. I'm a very creative person. I believe that everybody has creativity within themselves. And then parallel to that, I've always explored what it means to be an impact. I come from this family of people who are so passionate about making impacts in various communities. My mom, specifically in sustainable fashion, and my aunt in the community of autism, and my uncle in women's empowerment and sports. And so I've just always witnessed how people can make impacts in various ways, as well as just the planting of the seed of you can make an impact on one person and how that
Yeah.
makes you feel is something to really sit with. You can say one thing to one person and truly have made an impact. And I think, again, similarly to being an artist, the identity of I've made an impact in the world is often immediately tied to, well, how much of an impact have you made? Is it measurable? So I'm passionate about both of these subjects. And I've had this nonprofit since going to Emerson, and I've always explored what is the purpose of this nonprofit in the world. But being an impact artist to me is someone who identifies as using their art to make an impact on one or
Yeah.
multiple people. And I think there's a lot of intentionality behind that. And so a lot of the program that I've built around this term impact artist is starting to educate and empower a young person to dive into what it would look like if they started to identify as an impact artist and how that would benefit them versus like you have to fit this mold to become an impact
Yeah.
artist. It's stripping down that learning and going, you already are an impact artist if you want to be. Now let's start to define what that looks like to you and allow you to create that path for yourself so that you being an impact artist can be intentional and actually make an impact because there's so much I could say about this subject. But the minute you start to identify as an impact artist is when you can start to go,
I
oh,
am.
okay. I already identify as that. I am an impact artist. And so now, who do I want to make an impact on? What do I want to say? Why do I want to say it? Is what will allow for that impact to actually happen because then it will be authentic. And so there's so
I
much to
love
unpack, but
that.
basically, making an impact as an artist in any artistic medium that you see fit, using specifically the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals as a framework of what you want to make a difference or change about the world. There's so much beyond the Sustainable Development Goals, but I find it to be a
What is
really
it? The United
solid framework
Nations what?
because 17 Sustainable
What is
Development
what?
Goals. It's like a framework. Yeah. So many people are like, what is that? That's why I was like, oh, it's a great thing to integrate into our mission statement because for so long I was like, we're going to change the world through art. And so many people were like, Good luck. There's a lot of things to change about the world. The Sustainable Development Goals have an agenda attached within the United Nations, in that there are specific goals that they have, such as climate action, gender equality, no poverty, life on land, life below water, health and well-being. So there's different categories of things that maybe you feel specifically passionate about, but the reason why I really liked it is because it's one framework. You can feel passionate about something as an individual separate from what I'm passionate about, but we're still working towards the same agenda. And it just allowed for some more specificity behind what it was we were looking to change. So you can, if you
Yeah.
Google United Nations Sustainable Development Goals or go to our website, they come up immediately, but so many people don't know
Never
what
heard
they
I
are, which is
never
why
heard
I
of
kind
it.
of, and I was just like, oh, it's a cool opportunity to just tie our mission to something that already exists, has a community built
Yeah.
in, has
I love
people who
that.
are
I
the,
love the idea that you don't need to be making a certain amount of money. I feel like us growing up as artists, it's like, okay, is it a side hustle? Is it a full-time gig? Like what qualifies success as an artist? And I feel like the definition that came up a lot was, are you fully sustaining off of your art, right? Are you paying the bills solely with your art? I think you're still an artist even if you're not, you know? I saw somebody shared something the other day that was talking about the importance of the language that we use around things. You know, instead of saying, I'm trying to become a DJ or I'm trying to run, it's like saying, I am a runner, I am a DJ, I am an artist, and just identifying as that thing. There's just so much power in that
yeah.
verbiage and language around owning what it is that you're doing and how you're showing up.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I think that often we're so tied to how you're going to be perceived by other people. So if you don't say, I am a voiceover actor, for example, like I do voiceover acting, if I don't say it, then no one's going to believe that I actually am, or they're going to want to know what I have been cast as in order to quantify what I've done in order to then be able to say, okay, you are. But for me, when I say I'm a voiceover actor, I mean it. I'm auditioning, I'm doing
Yeah.
the thing. And so if I don't believe it, no one else is going
It's
to
also really funny
believe
too,
me.
I'm realizing now with titles, especially because so much of this shit is just made up. Truly, all you have to do is say you are something, put it in your Instagram bio, add it to your LinkedIn, and it's true.
Yeah, yeah, which is scary and also so
Like,
important
you just
if you
have to
want
own
that.
it. I did my solo episode a couple of weeks ago, and the hardest part of the entire episode, you'd think talking to myself for an hour, figuring out what I'm gonna say, structure. No, the hardest part of the entire episode was at the very beginning when I said, I am Amanda and I am blank. I re recorded that part
Yeah.
18 times because I was so it was all I mean, what I was sharing of what I'm doing, right? I'm a podcast host, I'm a speaker, I'm a content creator, I'm doing all these different things, but it's all new. And it was the first time I was saying it out loud. And it was so hard to
Totally.
articulate and it was so uncomfortable for me. And I was like, oh, but that's the thing that I have to get good at so that now when I meet people, I can share with them and confidently say, hi, I'm Amanda, and this is what I do. It's not who
Yeah.
I am, but it's this is what I'm doing right now. This is what lights me up. This is what I'm passionate about. And this is what I bring to the table.
Yeah, I mean, I could go on a tangent about this too, but I do think that sometimes women struggle to claim things. And claiming has a specific
Yeah.
connotation to it of like, now this is mine. It's an interesting reality that we face, but it's so powerful once you do it. That's why my bio is like, I am home birthed because no one can argue with that.
So you have the voiceover stuff. Are you still acting? What's a day in the life look like for Jade?
I would say that something important to note in this topic is that I personally have never really struggled with the need to
I love
define
that.
myself in a specific area. Like, I think even since I was a kid, I've never felt, and and thank my parents deeply for this. My parents are not perfect people, but they surely are loving people and very open people. My mom and dad have never forced, or they've inspired and advocated and definitely supported and influenced the way that I start to approach, if I'm gonna do a career path, like these are the things you need, like very realistic in a lot of ways. But they've never
Yeah.
boxed me. I've never felt like my mom was like, you need to do this, or like this is the thing you need to pursue. Also, my mom is an entrepreneur and very much a free spirit. So I've watched her my whole life. If she ever tried to box me, I'd be like, please. But yeah, I've really been gifted with that. I think that every day I really allow me as Jade to show up and organize myself in a way that the things that need to get done
Right.
are getting done and my responsibilities are being met and I'm paying bills that I need to pay and I'm prioritizing relationships that are valuable to me. And then when it comes to my career, obviously, and just quite frankly, I've struggled in ways. It's been a roller coaster of what is my identity within this. But usually those thoughts occur, but they don't stop me or leave me questioning for too long where I'm
Yeah.
stuck. So to answer your question, I do a lot of things. I literally have probably about 4 to 5 jobs that pay me, that I make money from utilizing various skill sets of mine. I'm an admin of one company. I'm a creative producer and director of one company. I still nanny. I used to nanny a lot when I moved to the city as my side hustle, but I love kids. So continuing the nanny in a way that's very balanced with everything else I'm pursuing has been such a gift. And also in the spirit of being such a
Yeah.
playful
I
person, like
love I love being with
I
kids.
get
And that fills your cup
yeah,
too.
totally, and it took me a while to just claim that even, just to say, "I am a nanny," but I'm so proud to be a nanny. I get to influence these little kids. I love them so deeply that it's fun for me, and then I do voiceover acting, I do on-camera acting, and then I have this nonprofit, so every day is
Yeah.
so different, truly. I still use a handheld
Love.
planner because that's, like, my lifeline to see everything. I really like the visual of a planner in front of me. Google Calendar just does not do it for me unless someone really wants to use it with
Like
me. I
me.
am not really on it.
I was like, "Let's
And
put it on the calendar, let's get it." For
yeah,
me, my rule with my friends, and they know, I'm like, "If it's not on the calendar, it's not happening." That goes from, like, a
totally.
coffee date to a phone call to anything that you wanna do with me. If you don't see me physically put it in the calendar, it will not happen.
My mom's like that. My mom needs everything in the calendar. I have my
Yeah.
planner and I write it and I have it memorized because I'm in it so
Right.
often that I just
Right.
like know what my week looks like. But to answer your question, literally every day is different. I try to stay really balanced with friends,
Yeah.
family. To me, if I feel even a little burnt out with work, relaxation to me is catching up
Yeah.
with a family member. So that also fills my cup or connecting with people. I've really looked at my life as constantly instilling things that are
Yeah.
important to me while also completing
No, this is
responsibilities.
amazing.
And
It's
I've been very lucky. It allows me to to
yeah.
feel free. I would say that. I audition all the time, but if I'm not booking, I'm not upset about it because I'm on to the
Yeah.
next thing so quickly that I'm unable to really sit too long with failure or like
Well, it sounds like
being
you've
denied or
created a really balanced life. You know, when we're kids, the question that we're asked all the time is like, what do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to be when you grow up? And I always say, I think a better question to ask kids is, what do you want your life to look like? And more importantly, what do you want your life to feel like?
tone.
And I think that these little pieces of, I'm on day 3 of being a full-time entrepreneur, and we were chatting about it before we hopped on, but I'm like, how am I structuring my day? How do I want my days to look? And I'm like, well, I still wanna wake up early. I wanna go out into nature. I wanna go for a walk. I wanna move my body. And I'm like, all of these things are yes, I have my to-do list of what I wanna get done in AmandaFest and what I wanna create and the courses that I'm doing and blah, blah, blah. And also the reason why I wanted to be a full-time entrepreneur is because I wanna create a life, a whole life that feels good. And I think in this culture in, America, this hustle culture, it's so easy to get lost in the I have to wake up and I have to grind and I have to do this. And if I'm going on a walk and I'm not starting work at this certain time, then I'm not being productive enough. And people are going to wonder. And it's like we can go through these cycles. And you think if you've never not had a full time 9 to 5 job, if that's all you can fantasize and imagine in your head, like, oh, if I didn't have this 9 to 5, life would be great, this and that. And then you don't really realize how you would respond until you are in that space. This is my second time now. I left my full-time career in entertainment May of 2023, and so I was
Yeah, I
unemployed for
remember
like
that.
8 months, and so I went to Europe, I did the whole thing, but then I remember coming back and those months of not really working, but not really looking for a job. I was doing No Fun at the time. We were doing this social wellness group, And I remember my days I would still be stressed. I would still be overwhelmed. I was like, I'm the busiest unemployed person you ever met because it's like, I just was so in that hustle mindset of like, even though I don't have anything to do, I'm busy all the time.
Totally, totally,
So it's
totally.
really cool. We talked about this with the way that you were raised and grown up. It's so amazing that you were raised with entrepreneurs as role models, not only entrepreneurs, but also your mom is really into like sustainability and wellness. And the way that you were raised, I feel like not put you at an advantage, but almost in the sense that a lot of the things
Yeah,
that I feel like I've learned as an adult in my 20s, and now I'm gravitating back to you because I'm like, oh, Jade's into all this stuff. But Jade's like, I was into this stuff when I was 4.
that was the kid in camp that was, like, in the weird food line and
He's like, I'm going to eat vegetables. And we're like, why?
Totally. No, I mean, I feel really blessed. Maybe it's privilege of having been born into a life that allowed me to see
Yeah.
life that way. Whatever the reason that I may never have the answer to, I do practice the gratitude of specifically that often because I really was raised with this awareness of it being possible for me. And I think unless it feels possible or you start to learn, as people say often, like unlearn
Yeah.
and then relearn, it's really challenging. I compare it to I've never had meat in my life, and people are like, "How do you live your life without eating meat?" Especially people who wanna become vegetarian, they're like, "How do you do it?" And I'm always like, "Honestly, it would probably be really hard for me to give something up that I love, so I totally can understand how it's challenging." And I've just never tried it, so, there's nothing in my body that
Yeah.
craves it
Yeah.
or wants
Yeah.
it or desires it. It's the same thing with a 9 to 5 or another life. I just don't know what it feels like, therefore, there's nothing that I crave, and my body doesn't need more than what I already have
Yeah. Yeah.
lifestyle-wise and what I'm giving it, so there's no
Yeah, well,
desire,
it's about the
like,
familiarity, right? I feel
there.
like even with what I'm doing right now, nobody in my life is doing this. And so there's a lot of projections coming in on like, well, how are you going to make money and how are you going to survive and how are you going to make this happen? And what about insurance? And what about this? All of the fears are valid for sure, but I'm also listening to the fears of the projections of people that aren't familiar with another possibility, right? It's like taking
Yeah.
that route of what is possible, going back to what you were saying earlier of I am an artist, I am this, is claiming that reality shifts your ability to show up fully in that reality, right?
Yeah, and it's
Yeah,
hard to do it, honestly, because every day is another day to try again in a positive or, like, more challenging way. Maybe you start your day with a phone call from someone who doesn't understand that. So they feed you information that is distorting your perspective of the thing for
yeah,
maybe an hour, and that affects the rest of your day. Versus you start your day and you're like, I had the most amazing interview with someone. And so now I'm on a
right,
high of what I'm doing. It's like every day could change. And you, I think, as the person doing it, it's the same as being in a relationship with someone. You're just in a relationship with now a different
right.
career path or a different lifestyle choice. You now have to be the one that checks in with yourself and goes, am I enjoying this enough to continue doing it? Or am I miserable and living in a state of misery? It doesn't feel good enough to pursue. You don't have to suffer
You're
at
totally
all.
right, though. I was on a call last night, so I'm in a mastermind right now, a business mastermind, and we were talking about offerings. It was a Q&A hot seat, 2.5 hour phone call where people were asking questions about this or that, and something came up where the girl was like, "Make sure that it's something that you wanna offer, because then what's the point? What's the point of doing this work, of creating this nonprofit, of starting this podcast?" It's not just for Instagram to be like, look, I did the thing. If it's not actually the thing that's lighting you up, that's bringing you joy, then pivot. It's okay. It's okay to try something and realize it's not aligned and then shift and do something else. But it's also really, really important to have clarity on, am I pivoting because I'm afraid? Am I pivoting because of other people's limiting beliefs? Or am I pivoting because this isn't genuinely in alignment? I would
Right.
love to hear your perspective on discovering and staying in alignment with the work that you're doing.
Going back to what I said in the beginning of following the path of least resistance, a value that my mom has always instilled in me is following your highest
Mhm.
excitement. And if it's not your highest excitement, like not doing it. And obviously, paying bills isn't my highest excitement, but that's a different category of what I'm speaking to. But with my nonprofit, my love and passion and true, authentic, real, rooted need to help young people and teenagers specifically for the target audience of my nonprofit is so real for me that the amount of times I've actually thought this is really hard. I don't know if I want to sign up for this. It overshadows that because am
Yeah.
so passionate about it. So that's what reminds me to keep going. If anything, the strength of how I'm so connected to what I'm doing, that overshadowing how hard it really is sometimes informs me to
Yeah.
keep going. And I think if you're suffering in it and there's not that spark of wanting to continue,
It's okay.
then
Yeah, it's okay.
in regards to other things that I'm doing, like voiceover, on camera acting, when I first moved to the city, I studied musical theater for the first 2 years at Emerson, and then I switched my major to acting with a minor in entrepreneurship. The professor who started the minor at the school is like a
Damn, I wished I
badass.
took that.
She's amazing. It was one of the first years that it had been
Oh,
executed at the college when I joined, but I mean, man, she was just a powerhouse, and if anything, I gained so much mentorship from that. But yeah, no, I know, I you should have,
but it's also kind of really ironic because a part of the reason why I didn't pursue acting, for those who don't know, I studied acting in college, but the reason why I didn't pursue it was because I remember my friends that were a few years ahead of me that were pursuing it. Being an actor is being an entrepreneur. It's working 4 different jobs. It's waking up at the crack of dawn, going to the open calls. It's a very unpredictable, untraditional, scary route. And I remember I listened to a lot of the fears and limiting beliefs of people in my life that loved me and cared about me. But I just, in my head, I was like, oh, I don't think I could withstand that type of lifestyle. And I was like, LOL, that I went the 9 to 5 route. And I did a very untraditional, I worked at a talent agency for a couple of years and then I ended up working directly with an actor and it was just me and him. I worked from his house. It was a very still working kind of 9 to 5 ish around someone else's schedule, but really that was like I was working side by side another entrepreneur. And then I was like, wait, I know how to do this. He would wake up every single morning and say, Amanda, what am I doing today? He had all these different projects going on and all these things that he was doing. And I would just sit there and strategize and be like, okay, today we need to work on this. Tomorrow we have a call with this person. Let's organize this. Let's have this lunch. Let's have this conversation. Let's work on this script. Let's read this thing. And so I was like, damn, I know how to do this. Why am I so scared? Like, why am I so afraid of like, why?
yeah, totally. And I think that the majority of the work that I do with acting and the nonprofit specifically, the majority of the work that I do day to day is figuring out what I can and can't
Yeah.
control. That alone is so all of the work because I can control getting the
Yeah.
audition in when my agent sends it to me. I cannot control the amount of auditions that my agent is sending me. So it's like those two things allow me to compartmentalize what I do that day because if I'm doing the audition, I'm doing
Right.
my job. My job is sending in the audition that I'm receiving. My job isn't to spend the whole day worrying about the auditions that I'm not getting. And I think we're not taught to to look at it. Entrepreneurship is a whole nother battleground because you're creating something literally from scratch. There's no framework unless you have a specific industry you're entering into and there is some sort of framework. I highly recommend looking at that and seeing what works and doesn't. But the nonprofit field and arts education and that not even being something that a lot of people are tapped into, I'm entering into the space that does exist, but also like kind of doesn't. And a lot of people are resistant to it. So it's like that, managing that. And I speak very
Yeah.
honestly about it to people. I'm like, "Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really hard. I don't really half the time know what I'm doing, but it's okay. My life isn't gonna be over if I end the day still not knowing." Granted, I have a lot of side things that I do that take my mind off of what I'm not doing, but,
Yeah.
it's all a balance. But I think to your point, it's all creating your own schedule and it's all creating your own version of what that looks like. And the control versus not control part of it allows me to prioritize responsibly and keep my heart
Yeah.
rate down during the day and for my health, physically, mentally, spiritually. And also to answer your question on the acting side of things, when I did musical theater and I graduated, and even though I didn't graduate with a musical theater degree, I did start to audition for musical theater productions, Broadway, regional, off Broadway, and I just didn't love the audition
Yeah.
process at that point. I was in New York City and I was waking up at 6 a.m., 7 a.m., and I was doing the thing, and
It's a hard
I was
life.
like, I don't what it's a hard life, but some people I commend and applaud the people who are like, "It's a hard life, but I really wanna do it." I'm like, "Good, do it." But I didn't love it enough, the process. Voiceover auditioning, I love. Granted, I can be in my pajamas when I'm auditioning. There's a lot of value add to that. But I love voiceover acting. I love the auditioning. And auditioning again is part of the job. It's fun for me. I'm gonna keep doing it because I love it. And I do on-camera auditions. I don't love on-camera auditions as much as voiceover. But again, like I said earlier, I send in my audition,
Yeah.
I forget that I auditioned. If I book it, I feel proud of myself and I feel excited to meet a new group of people. I feel excited to be part of something that hadn't existed is now going to exist because I'm able to put my face and brain and thoughts and talents behind it. But I don't feel like I
Yeah.
need to book in order to survive. And that comes with finding a job that pays you that you love too,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we were saying
honestly.
earlier too, there's the supporting your base needs, and then there's the pursuing something you're passionate about. The whole purpose of this podcast is to inspire and empower people to take aligned action towards your dream lives. And I always like to caveat whatever that looks like for you. For me, it looked like me blowing up my whole life, going to Europe, doing an eat, pray, love, getting a tech job, quitting that, going full, like I'm a balls to the wall kind of gal. And I do it up. It sounds like with you,
Good.
being an entrepreneur was just the path that was kind of laid out for you. It was modeled for you. You had the right mentorship, you had the right mindset going into it. Inspiration struck, and you found something you're really passionate about, and you're stepping into that. And then I think there's something in between. There is a lot of privilege in the ability to pursue something that you're passionate about because some people don't necessarily have the freedom and flexibility to change careers to whatever it is. And you don't have to do that. You don't have to blow up your whole life. I'm just now becoming a solo entrepreneur, but for the last 9 months, I've had a full time job and I've been discovering what am I passionate about. I've been taking courses before and after, doing homework, recording all my podcasts at 6:30 p.m. right after work ends. It is possible to create a structure in which you are able to pour into the things that you love without blowing everything up, you know? But I think a lot of what you've been
Yes.
sharing is that it also takes a lot of emotional intelligence and mental strength and ability to have the wherewithal to navigate these different spaces and these different things. And yeah, you very easily could send out an audition and not get it, and that can ruin your whole day, that you get nothing else done that day, and then you could spiral into all these different spheres. But it sounds like the thing that I keep hearing from you is this really healthy integration and balance that you found in your life of fulfillment in variety of different areas, nourishment from all these different directions, and you have to have your base needs met in order to have the ability to be creative. So having your base needs met by having a variety of different streams of income and ways in which to pay your rent and pay your bills and be safe. It's just so cool to hear because you don't hear that very often for people of just the reality of what all of that looks like coming together.
Yeah, and it's easier said than done, for sure. I'm always learning what's best for me. And there have been different stages of my life where it's been easier or harder depending on what's going on. But as cheesy as it can be, where there's a will, there's a way. If you have the will and you're like, I love this, or I want this, or I'm passionate about this, or I feel like my purpose is aligned to this, if you feel a specific way, you just need to spend the time to figure it out. And some people don't have time, some people don't have support systems. There's different things, but I do believe that if there's a will, there's a way. So there are resources that you can go to, there are opportunities that you can start to develop and slowly learn what
Yeah.
you're passionate about on the weekends or after 5 p.m. job.
Yeah.
Like there's different ways to do it, which I very much am like, yes, Amanda, you did your version of that. That's so cool. And clearly you feel connected to what you want to pursue.
I think going all the way back to what you were saying earlier about impact, you don't need 1 million followers to be an influencer. I get one message from somebody who's like, wow, the post that you shared today really made me think, and thank you. I literally have a folder in my phone where I screenshot every time somebody says something nice to me, like anything. If we got off of this
That's great.
podcast and you were like, wow, Amanda, thank you. If there's like a little bit of substance to it and you're saying a beautiful reflection that you see in me, I screenshot it and I have a folder in my phone called gratitude. And I collect it because I'm like, every beautiful reflection that I receive from somebody means so much to me. And especially when it comes to a reflection in that's in alignment with the work that I'm doing, it's just further confirmation that I'm like, okay, maybe I'm not making a ton of money yet. Maybe I don't have 1 million followers on Instagram, but I made one person think differently today. And that's everything.
Yeah, it's very meaningful. It's very, very meaningful. And that's such a cool, amazing piece of
Yeah.
advice to give people, having a library.
I think people see people like us who are bright and bubbly and this, and they're like, wow, you must be happy all the time. And it's like, no, dude, I go through the shit. I feel doubt. I feel scared. I wake up sometimes. I'm like, what the literal fuck am I doing with my life? I don't know. Ah, I mean, let's just be really real about it. Another thing that I really love doing as well is ask your friends for reflections and reminders when you're feeling down or doubtful or you're forgetting your magic, text a friend that you know fucking loves you and say, hey, I'm having a really hard day. Can you remind me how amazing I am really quick? And just see what they say.
Yeah, and on that note, and I say this with all the love in my heart, if someone is giving you criticism or just someone who you trust and you love, obviously the way in which people communicate is like a
Yeah.
really important
Yeah.
part of this. But I think often our body wants to take things personally and get defensive when someone is telling us something that we don't want to hear. But when it comes to this kind of path or just like paths in general, you can filter out the things that
Yeah.
don't feel true. But I do think sometimes the things that we don't want to hear can benefit us in some sense.
Yeah.
Like maybe then not the whole
Yeah.
thing is beneficial, but there's something to be said for the moments that my mom says something where I'm like, yeah, like you don't understand. Like I've definitely resisted a lot of advice that I've
Yeah.
been given by people. But sometimes I'm like, okay, what can I pull from what she's trying to say to me to
Yes.
help me
Yeah.
grow?
Yep.
Sometimes I think we automatically want to go, "Wh- I did something wrong and I need to fix this or I need to just be different or but it's
Yeah.
just it's that easy. You can go, okay, yeah, that's something that I can
Yeah.
start to integrate and notice more. Sometimes I will say to someone, I hear you. I might not be able to fix it by tomorrow just because it needs to
Right.
become
Right.
habitual for me. So just give me a little bit of time.
It's just all communication, and I know that when it comes to entrepreneurship, it's such a master class in personal development of navigating these situations
Yeah.
of accountability and showing up and communicating, and even with what you're talking about with letting things go and not putting all your eggs in one basket and diversifying, and just it's a dance and it's a balance, and it's so cool to hear someone's perspective on it. And I really hope that anybody listening to this podcast, if you can take anything away from this conversation, it's maybe adopt some of Jade's very easeful approach to doing things that you love and not taking it too seriously. Nothing's that deep, nothing's that important. We can do it all, and then we can do some more later, and it's all good.
Totally. And to that point, I'd be deep. I am the person at the party that's like, tell me from the day you were born,
Yeah.
everything about you and like why it's made you who you are today. And they're like, okay, my name's Jamie. Like, well, let's just start there. So I am a very deep thinker and a very deep processor and a very deep connector and communicator. But that being said, I like to keep things light, I like to keep things playful, and I think it does ease and
Yeah.
soften the experience of being a person because it's kind of like when you're choosing a life partner or you're choosing something in your life that is very, very meaningful or important. Life is hard. So if there are things that are really hard right in the beginning and you're feeling so overwhelmed, start to listen and ask yourself what I believe is things should have a baseline of ease and peace and then allow all of the complication and challenges and like
Yeah. Yeah.
complexities of life to be on top of this foundation that shouldn't feel too overwhelming or hard. Obviously, there's a lot of things in life that are out of our
Totally.
control with foundations that are built like that. But, if you're making a choice, at least make choices that
Well,
feel
yeah.
connected and to the alignment of your entire podcast, which is so beautiful and true. Looking at what does align, but it's really valuable to just have this sense of humor about things. During COVID, I started to record meditations because I wasn't getting voiceover auditions. I love meditating, and that's a really deep thing for me. But recording meditations just gave me a new relationship to it without feeling like I needed people to listen. I just was like, this is fun to do, sharing my voice and
Yeah.
being playful about it.
We pull oracle cards before every episode, and we pulled the dolphin
Mm.
card, which was all about play and connection. It's a really big pillar of AmandaFest in general, all about supporting ambitious dreamers to step into their dream reality with intentionality and play. Those are my two main pillars, and I feel like you are a really beautiful embodiment of those two pillars as well, because it feels like everything
Thanks.
that you do, there's a level of levity to it. There's a fun playfulness to it. You're doing things that light you up, that bring you joy, but you're also extremely intentional about it as well. You're like, I have things to do. I have things that I'm passionate about, that I'm desiring to pursue, that I want to bring into this world, that I want to help people with. And that you're taking this aligned, intentional action each day in different ways to bring those passions and excitements to reality. But that play element, not enough people, grown-ups be too serious. Everything is deep
Mm.
and nothing's that deep. I'm the same way. I'm a very deep person as well, and the conversations that I have with people get really intense, and I'm the first one on the dance floor being a silly goose, like that's just duality.
Yeah,
Duality.
yeah. Totally yin and yang. And also, you don't have to know how to play. I think when you become an adult, there is this like, if I don't know how to do this, then it feels uncomfortable. And being playful or silly
Yeah.
to some people comes very, very easily. And for some people, it's really,
Yeah.
really uncomfortable to sit on the floor with a 2-year-old and make ridiculous faces.
Really?
I think it's sometimes more accessible for people and less accessible for others. It's a practice just like anything else. So I think daily you can start to just be a little bit more like
Or just doing
finding the
something
joy,
simple that lights you
smile.
up. Right now, I'm super into the city bikes in New York.
I love city
Instead of
bikes.
taking a
Yeah.
subway, I'm like, "Ooh, I wanna go on a bike ride and explore the city," and that's, like, fun. It's playful. I think when you're desiring to tap into play and joy as an adult, my advice is think about the things that lit you up as a kid. So what was it? Did you like to play outside? Did you like to draw? Did you like to dance? Did you like to sing? Like, whatever it is that you enjoyed doing, and find a way to do the adult version of that. So if you like to dance, maybe go out to a dance club or put on some music and dance in your apartment. If you like to sing, sing in the shower. You could do
Yeah.
karaoke, you could do something private, you could do something with people, but just incorporating throughout your day. And maybe this is a cool exercise for people. Take a tally. What have I done today that's fun for me and nourishing for me? Today, I went for a walk in the park. I went to Central Park and I found this really cute waterfall, and I was sitting by the waterfall, and it was really nice. It's not that cold outside. And I was like, ooh, I want to take my shoes off and walk in the waterfall. And so I did. It was a bunch of
Love that.
dogs and me playing in the water today. And then a group of children came, and I was like, yeah, I would be doing what the 2-year-olds and the puppies are doing, because it's like whatever. It
It
felt
felt
good. It felt
good.
fun. And I was like, I'm going to lean into it. So, like every day, I'll put on music, I'll dance, I'll sing in the shower, I'll ride the bike. I'm like, whatever, it's going to be silly and fun. It can't all be serious all the time. It just can't.
Yeah, and I feel like sometimes silly gets overruled by weird
It's
or like
cringe. The
different.
cringe.
And
Cringe is
I
the new
think,
word everybody loves to use.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But like, don't judge yourself. Let other people judge you, but don't judge yourself.
If you sit there and judge other people when they're in their joy, when they're in their bliss, I invite you to just observe that within yourself, because 9 times out of 10 would venture to say that whatever you're judging, there can be an element of that's making me uncomfortable. Why is that making me uncomfortable? Maybe because it's something that I
Yeah.
wish that I had the ability to be doing. If that person over there is dancing like nobody's watching and I'm sitting there judging them, observe that in yourself for a second and be like, what's that about? Hmm,
Why? Yeah. Like, why am I attacking them? Is there part of me that is interested or
totally,
intrigued?
totally. Well, as we come to a close here, Jade, we're going to put all your links and things in the show notes below. But if there's anything exciting that you want to share, anything coming up, ways that people could connect with you, would love for you to share that here.
Well, first of all, I'm so grateful that you had me and that we're
Yeah,
connected. And yeah, I really
thank
believe in what you're
you.
sharing. So thank you. And thank you for lifting me up. I think that's such an important part of being a podcaster and being someone who is claiming like conversation as a means of helping other people. And I think part of lifting other people up is starting with the person you're talking to. So I appreciate that
Yeah.
really very much. I exist on all the things, and you could go to jadezaroff.com. I very much welcome anyone to message me directly and let's play. And Instagram, my nonprofit is at Entertainment for Change or entertainmentforchange.com if you're interested in connecting on how to bring the impact artist program to life in your school or your facility, or we're going to have an online version of it. So if you have a teenager that might be interested in becoming an impact artist, it's all rooted in empowerment tools to support the next generation of creative change makers. And keep being
Yeah.
curious, stay curious, and especially in the heaviness of the world that we live in, to acknowledge what you acknowledged in the beginning. It's a really intense world. There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of things that are serious to deal with. But that being said, allowing yourself the space you need, and also if you want to engage in using your voice, balancing those two things in a healthy way, and stay curious about which one, both daily and macro, in a year and like what you want to do with all that information. Stay curious about how you want to interact, why you want to interact, and what you're doing, what you want to share with the world, why you want to share with the world. Stay curious about yourself and other people, and then you won't judge as much. Maybe you'll have a little bit more
I
fun.
agree. I think that if we can all tap into our inner children, if we can all bring back the joy that we once knew, and it's about remembering, right? Because we all
That sounds like it's gone. You're like, bring back
but
the
no,
joy that
but it's
doesn't exist
true.
any
I mean, I
longer.
think I just feel like so many people forget. We're conditioned to forget. We're brainwashed to
Totally.
forget. We're programmed to be big, serious, grown-up adults, and you have to behave well and wear a blazer and blibbity blibbity blood. I'm like, yeah, okay. You're like, yeah, all right, okay. It's not that deep, guys. We're
Totally, totally. Draw a
yeah,
rainbow
draw a
today.
rainbow, go play in the puddles with the kids and the puppies. Go have fun, guys. Life's too short not to be living in your joy. I think if anything, I feel like that's the theme of your embodiment, Jade, of the way that you show up is just do something every day that brings you joy, that takes you one step closer to the things that you want to create and build in this world. And know that your value isn't based off of the outcome, but it's about the process. And that's our
Yeah,
show.
yeah. Thank you,
Thank you
beautiful, for
so much for
having me
being
again.
on, guys. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe, like, comment, message me, let me know what you like, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye.